Hey guys, Rob Shoecraft here with Three Storm Fitness. I want to try to get a couple more videos out this week, but I need to shoot them in the gym, and it's been pouring here. And I know you've heard me say this before if you subscribe to this channel and watch my videos, but that metal roof down there, it's just impossible to get audio. So I'm going to talk about something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, especially since I just saw some post somewhere, it might have been Reddit or something, on Quora, or I don't know. I get these feeds, and every now and then it's Jiu-Jitsu related, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specifically. And somebody was asking if it's worth the trouble, if you can only make it to class once a week, if it's worth even starting. And I need to kind of qualify myself, or disqualify myself, depending on how you look at it, as far as my right or ability or whatever to answer that. And I can't give a conclusive answer. I'm going to try, but really what I think it comes down to is what your goals are. If you want to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for purposes of being a high-level competitor, basically being the best at the sport. If you look at it as a sport, even I don't personally compete, although I'd like to someday. I probably will, at least get the experience. But if you want to be, a very competitive athlete in jiu-jitsu, or using that to further your MMA career or whatever, I would say, yeah, you need to at least train more than once a week. I just don't see how it's possible to do unless you just make an entire day of it. But I doubt anybody's doing that. Whatever. So I'm sure you could probably find somebody. But I don't want to talk too much about that. You get my point. Just like anything, if you're playing a sport, let's say you're playing basketball, and you only practice once a week, but you want to, get a full ride to some big university, good luck. It's not really possible. I don't think so. Now, getting that out of the way, if you want to do it for more of the reasons I do it, self-defense, that's really the biggest driver. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, I've done a lot of martial arts over the years. Now, back to qualifying myself. I'm not an expert in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not an expert in martial arts at all, but I'm an enthusiast, and I've dedicated several hundred hours to martial arts across the board, and if not thousands, I don't know. I really haven't tracked, but so I guess you could say I'm an expert at being a one-stripe blue belt. I brought my belt out, just I don't know why really, but I'm an expert at being a one-stripe blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a practitioner who goes just once a week. And I can tell you that it is worth the trouble. If you have the finances, if you have a couple things which I'm going to talk about, which are more mental, more of an attitude thing, then I say it's absolutely worth it. In fact, I think most things in life, again, back to I was using a basketball analogy earlier, most things, it's a lot better to do it once a week than not at all. Good things. I mean, I wouldn't say like do heroin once a week. That's better than not doing it. But I mean, I haven't really tried, but I'd imagine. However, lifting weights. Let's say you just lift weights once a week. Studies have shown that's a lot better. It's not as good as doing it multiple times a week, but all things being equal, it's much better than not doing it at all. And there's a million other examples just like it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I don't think is any different. Again, if you can budget for it, you can make it work. You're not going to progress as quickly as the rest of your peers, but in terms of becoming a better you and being better at defending yourself, and I mean, they say that one of the Gracies, I think maybe Henner Gracie, that's a pretty fair bet. He's one of the more vocal of the family. A person that goes into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, their first class comes out, I'm paraphrasing stupidly here, but it comes out a much better version of themselves when they went in, at least within the context of self-defense. You're not going to know everything there is to know, but you're going to know a heck of a lot more than you did when you're just comparing yourself. And that's really the mentality of this whole thing. One of the things you have to be cool with is being cool with somebody starting. I've been doing this for a little over 5 years. Actually, I think this month is my 5th year. I've been doing this for 5 years, for the most part, just once a week. One of the reasons I do it just once a week is because it's 2.5 hours round trip to get there and back, and I between family and 2 businesses and just all the other crap I got going on, I just cannot make it there. I know that's an excuse, but it is what it is. But what the heck was I saying? Yeah, there's been a lot of guys and girls who have started years after me, who now I'm seeing progress past me. You have to be okay with that. If you're not okay with that, either get okay with that, or I guess the answer would be no, you can't. It's not worth it. You have to just, again, keep the frame of mind that you're just becoming a better you. You have to compare yourself to yourself. My instructor, Carlos Mendez, he said to me one day, because I don't know if I was really down, but we were talking about, just plateauing and making slow progress, and he's like, you got to look at yourself where you were 5 years ago and look at yourself now, and you may have these little hills and valleys, but at the end of the day, you're looking at 2 different dots, and one's up here and one's down here, and it is what it is. It's totally true. If you're in it for the long game, you can come out way ahead of where you were before, and absolutely worth the time in my opinion. And again, I'm when it comes to this very specific set of circumstances, being someone who's been doing it, somebody who has a 1 stripe on their blue belt and has only been going for the most part once a week. Yes, it can be done, and I'm pretty confident that I could kick my own butt, despite having a lot of kickboxing experience and things like that. I could beat the crap out of myself 5 years ago. I'm pretty darn sure of it. And it's because of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, it's kind of a good segue. I've also been, I'm also stronger physically. So the one thing that I do to kind of, it's not the same, but okay, let's put it this way. If you want to get better at your sport, or you want to get better at whatever your activity is, if you want to get better at piano or whatever, the best way to do it is to, if you want to get better at football, best way to get good at football is to play football. You could get stronger, that's going to help you. You can get faster, that's going to help you. You can do visualization strategies, all sorts of stuff like that, meditation, whatever you got to do, whatever these supplemental attributes are. That's all going to help you. That's all good. But the best way to get good at football is to play your sport and to play your position. No different in jiu-jitsu. The best way to get good at jiu-jitsu, technique's the great equalizer. That's one of the things that actually makes Brazilian jiu-jitsu so unique compared to many other martial arts, is the ability, the sheer effectiveness of the technique. Makes small opponents, gives them the ability to take bigger opponents and defend themselves against bigger opponents. And I could speak full well, I've been choked out by so many guys half my size, quite literally half my size, that there is no question on my mind that is 100% true. Technique is everything, and the only way you're going to get good at technique is by practicing, by training, and the more you do that, the better you get, so on and so forth. It's just it's an old adage. It applies here. That said, there are some things you could do to help. All right, so I don't just go to jiu-jitsu once a week and just sleep, the rest of the time. Although sleep is important for recovery. But, I lift weights. I work on mobility restrictions, places where, like in jiu-jitsu, like my hips are notoriously terrible for me. I work on those constantly so that when I do get time on the mat, I'm not having to, I can hit the ground running. When I do any sort of cardio, which by the way I need to work on some more. Well, first of all, doing cardio, keeping your endurance up, so that again, sport specific speaking specifically to a sport, the best way to get endurance in the sport is to play the sport at greater intensities and things like that. In other words, I could go out and ride a bike and get incredible endurance that way, but if I go out and try to jog, the carryover is only part of the way there. Okay, so again, this is just, I'm facilitating, I'm supplementing, so I'm making myself stronger, I'm making myself building endurance, improving my mobility, so that the time that I spend on the mats, which is very limited, is as most effective as it could possibly be. Okay, so that's what I'm doing outside of the gym. Another thing that I do, and I think just anybody should do this, especially big guys. It's real easy when you're starting off, especially, to use your size, to basically substitute. A couple times that Carlos has been like, dude, that's not jiu-jitsu, where I've just like gotten frustrated and just thrown some guy off of me. And then of course usually he ends up catching me at the end and I wind up in an arm bar or something. So there's a lesson there. But a lot of big guys like to bully their way through. Well, until they meet somebody a smaller guy who has incredible technique, or just a bigger person than them, and then all of a sudden they have nothing anymore. They're just a bully with nothing to offer. All that to say, you can only make yourself so light as a big guy, but do everything you can to practice your technique. I don't tend to use my size and strength. I do it sometimes, but for the most part, I try to just get that technique. So again, when I'm on the mats, when I'm rolling, when I have those opportunities to actually train, there's not a lot of time, so I got to get everything I can out of it. I focus on the technique. I don't try to manhandle my way, to power my way through it, because I'm not really I could do that outside of the gym. I could do that in the weight room. Those are the kind of things, and I could save that. There's a time and a place for that, and it's like maybe in a competition, or if you actually, God forbid, actually have to use this stuff in the streets. That's the time to use your strength and your power and stuff. But practice the technique. I think you get the point. So, don't just try to turn it into every time on the mat's a competition. You got to be the alpha male or alpha female, whatever. Practice your technique. Okay, leave the ego, all that stuff, because somebody's going to take your ego away from you anyway. So just get used to that. That's another beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu. People that stick around long enough are usually some of the greatest people ever. All these cliches you probably heard before, they're just, humility builds character, and so does tenacity and stick-to-itedness. All that stuff comes from just getting creamed on the mats over and over and over again. I mentioned before, another thing I wanted to say was kind of address that mentality of like, because on one hand you say, somebody goes to the mat on the mats, and they really do. Let's say they take a class and they learn like the trap and roll, one of the greatest fundamental. That's a technique that you can use from all belts. It almost always works. And I got to go back to fundamentals. That's another point I want to talk about. You learn the trap and roll, and you're much better at defending yourself now. It's just assuming that you're going to drill it and you're going to drill it into your mind. Let's say you just know that technique. You have a leg up over anybody else who doesn't. But that doesn't mean that you're an effective self-defense practitioner. That's kind of like saying that, okay, somebody who doesn't know how to read at all is much less educated than somebody who just knows their ABCs. That person who knows their ABCs knows so much more than the person who doesn't know any of it. But the person that could read an entire book and recite it back to you, that person's way up. The person who's read the encyclopedia, or if that's even a thing anymore, Wikipedia, you see what I'm saying? There's different stages. So just because you're better than you were before, you still have a vast amount to go. So just keeping proper perspective, both on how far you've come, but also how far you need to go, is important. Perspective is everything. Dropping the ego, I mentioned that. Being cool with getting humiliated, basically. You got to be cool with that. Fundamentals. I wanted to mention fundamentals. So a lot of folks want to just learn as many techniques as they can. And part of me thinks that's awesome. And that's actually a place that I need to be better at. I have a very, very small game, so to speak. There's I don't know, I'd say like 10 things that I do really well for being a one-stripe blue belt anyway. I have a very, very close game there's many things that I do very well, but it's a small amount. So when somebody's hitting omoplatas and gogoplatas and all sorts, just different, all sorts. There's a million different submissions and ways to hit them from different angles and positions, and all that stuff is so crazy and cool and blows my mind. And it's important to know and learn it. If you have the opportunity, learn it. But having said that, the way I kind of see it is, I don't have that much time on the mat. So while I'm certainly not going to refuse new knowledge, I'm kind of the opinion that I want to just be unstoppable with these core fundamentals. And my tune might change down the road. But where I am right now, I find that because I do drill, I'll drill these fundamentals. So I mentioned cardio, like I'll work jiu-jitsu drills and I'll just do stuff on my own. It's not the same as working with somebody, but I'll do stuff on my own. And I'll just go over that and go over that and over that by myself until I don't have to think about it anymore. So yeah, I can't do the most advanced things in the world, but the things I can do, I do really, really well. Health and Grace, we call that repetition, repetition, repetition. You got to just drill it, drill it, drill it. So find time to drill those fundamental movements. Don't get too caught up in YouTubing the greatest new submissions. I mean, all that stuff's good if your fundamentals are down, but always go back to the fundamentals. And then lastly, I'll just say one thing that's really helped me is I started teaching jiu-jitsu. So one of the biggest hurdles for me is that 2.5 hour drive time. So when I go to class, I got to go to class. Oh, by the way, I pick the day where I'm able to hit 2 classes while I'm there. So that also helps. But that's huge, actually. So try to do that if you can. But I started teaching it. I started teaching it to folks. So I am qualified to teach these basic fundamentals, and to basically new folks. I feel very confident being able to teach basically what is usually referred to as the combatives, and it helps me tremendously. So basically, I have 2 new opportunities. I teach 2 classes a week. So even if I'm not able to make it to class, or even if I can only make it to those two classes essentially, I'm still able to train now as a teacher as well. So I guess really I'm going to 4 jiu-jitsu classes a week now, if you look at it that way. But really, as a student, I'm going once. I mean, if you look at just that one single session, it's all just semantics, whatever. All I'm trying to say is find those opportunities. Let's say somebody says, I'd really like to learn jiu-jitsu. Just teach them. Like, be like, hey, show up at my house at this time. We'll go over it. I know a guy, Jonathan. He's doing that, and that dude's obsessed, man. He's going to be killing me very shortly. But he's one of those guys that started 1.5 years ago, and I just got to be cool with him killing me. You got to be cool with that. Take your hat off to those people who are hungry and are working. And just learn what you can from them. But back to what I was saying, by teaching those fundamentals, and again, I'm not really learning much new things, but I'm finding new things from the fundamentals. These are all things that apply to everything in life, and you've heard a version of this and whatever it is you're into, I'm sure. But it's just worth reiterating. I just wanted to come back and say, if I didn't say it from the beginning, sometimes I just launch into these tangents and don't actually say what the point is from the get-go. But the point is, if you want to get better as a better human being, if you want to get better as a person who can defend yourself, which is extremely important. I mean, that's so important. That's another video, but that's critical. And you want to have more self-confidence, and you want to be more physically capable. Just all these wonderful things that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and other martial arts as well provide. You could do it with just once a week. I recommend getting as many times as you can, but you can do it. As somebody, At least if you want to get to where I currently am, I could tell you from experience you can do it. If you want to get better, you should go more often. Try to find a way to do it. If you can't go more often, and you're kind of in my situation, then do all those other things that I talked about to at least maximize the time that you're there. Okay? So if you guys have any more questions about Brazilian, maybe disagree with me. I don't really see how you could. It's fine. I'd love to talk about it. Again, it depends on the context. If you're trying to be a champion fighter, no, you got to train all the time. But whatever, I'm not trying to be. Maybe someday, and I'll need to rearrange things. But until then, this seems to be working. Yeah, chime in if you have anything to add to it, and subscribe to my channel. Hopefully I can pump out some more videos today if it stops raining. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Rob Shoecraft, 3 Storm Fitness. So long.